There, now we're live. Rob Hova with First Blood. Good morning. And I see Danny. Good morning, sunshine. So, let's did this. Morning. Oh, let me get you just a little more screen space there, my man. A little real estate. There you go. Good morning.
Good
All right.
morning.
So this morning we're going to start off by talking about Whoopie Goldberg and terrorism.
Yay,
and springboard
Wednesday.
into some other topics. I see a lot of our favorites here. Rob Hova says, check your YouTube video content. It shows that 6 months of content has been taken down. So yeah, I'm going to have to go take a look at that. I have not gotten a notification related to that. If you've got a screenshot for me, I'd appreciate it, Rob. But there's two bits. So we're going to talk about The View this morning for just a minute, and then we're going to get into some other topics. But I want to start with this because.
Well, they're all related, and it's Woke Wednesday.
I want you to think back to the whole January 6th situation. Donald Trump said, I want you all to go and peacefully make your voices heard.
I remember.
And the cry from the enemy has been, he was calling for violence. And you hear this all the time, that conservatives dog whistle for violence on social media, and they say things that allude to violence.
I've heard that dog whistle term my entire life, and I'm like, I never got the memo. Like, oh, well, that's a racist dog whistle, and that's a sexist dog whistle, and that's a homophobic dog whistle, and it's like, no, I just think that in an ideal world, like, the man would have a job and the woman would stay home with the babies. That's all I said. Well, that's all the dog whistles, and it's like, what is this dog whistle you speak of?
Right, exactly. And real quick, Hova, if you want to send something, send it to the show, all one word, the show at brushfiremind.com. So let's dig into this for a little bit. I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me if you can pick out the coded language that she's using, because it's really subtle here. It's super subtle.
It's NPCs practicing IMAX level projection.
Oh,
I see what happened.
We have to turn the fader back up.
Cancel culture.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Listen, Budweiser, we're all Americans here. We appreciate your beer, whether it's light or the regular beer. You have every right, and we have every right to buy it if we like it. Don't let them scare you.
Right. Yeah.
Let us scare you. Before we start.
So, I mean, to be fair, a lot of those women on The View are kind of scary.
They are scary. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to find myself under that lump of meat.
No, think about it real hard. Like, visualize it in slow motion.
Okay, we're done. But I mean, it could not be more clear. And what has happened since in the interim, we've seen reminders of what she's talking about. So what Whoopi's saying here, that's the end of a 5-minute clip through which they talk about the boycotts and people destroying their cases of Bud Light in viral videos. Dude, Kid Rock says he has spent $36 million buying up Bud Light in his local area to make sure that nobody can buy it.
That might slightly defeat the purpose.
Except that he's also made another $120 million on ticket sales from the show promotions that he's done by doing that.
No, I'm tracking, but like if we want Bud Light sales to take a hit, Kid Rock spending $30 million on Bud Light is
agreed.
I mean, look, I get his point.
Actually, so Kid Rock spending the money on the Bud Light to make the point that he's made has been a pivotal mechanism in expanding the reach of the boycott. So in all fairness, it's one of those you got to spend. This is more like you got to spend money to take money. So by purchasing the beer to do the publicity stunts, to spread the message, to raise the awareness, he has actually been instrumental in creating the market situation where Anheuser-Busch has lost, I think we were up to $7 billion in market cap lost in just a week.
It's fluctuating. I've been watching that really closely. $7 billion was their biggest dip. They haven't fully recovered, but they have begun to recover. Until we have some hardcore sales figures, especially by region and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be difficult to know. And of course, just because people stop buying Bud Light doesn't mean they stop buying Land Shark, which is also owned by Anheuser-Busch. But just real quick, Sean Stryker says The View is why MGTOW exists. Well, he ain't right, but he ain't wrong either. Yeah. Yeah, so that's no, but I think this is like absolutely like IMAX level NPC projection here. Don't be afraid of them, afraid of us. Afraid of what? Exactly.
Oh, let's see. Chicago and Los Angeles just had teen street takeovers that went for several days over the past weekend.
That's a really nice way of saying a bunch of racist black kids beat up white people and broke and smashed in car windows.
Yeah, we've got videos from that activity where literally gangs of dozens of black men assaulted a single white woman trying to get into her apartment building.
Men.
And beat the absolute shit out of her. At a time when we've got Joe Biden calling a kid who got himself shot knocking on the wrong door, which
we'll talk about that.
Don't take that as a defense of anything that happened there. I think that's probably a very tragic situation where an awful misunderstanding led to something terrible. But Biden has called this kid and invited the kid's family to the White House. Biden couldn't tell you the name of the girl that was beat nearly to death by a veritable zoo of black men.
Well, and it's a racial narrative. Anytime there's a racial narrative that they can push, even though, and again, we'll go into more detail on Friday, it looks like old man was a poor gun owner. The racial component is, though, however, when we do go into it, I'm actually happy to talk about it. We can just be offensive as hell, and it'll make the point. But Whoopie, okay? First of all, look, let's just lay it out, okay? Bud Light, Budweiser, for the longest time, like, their brand was NASCAR and, MMA, and middle America works Monday through Friday in a factory and comes home Friday night, and the boys come over and you get a 12-pack of Bud and you watch the basketball game or the boxing match or whatever. Like, that was Bud's brand, okay? The people making $40,000 a year and saving up their money to take a vacation once every couple of years, that was Bud. And those people don't like, well, how can I say, sexual perversion that has this tendency to encroach on their children.
There are people that are so busy that they don't have time to be interested in things that are not reality.
Yes. Yeah, I can't worry about your pronouns because I have to be at the shop by 6 a.m. so that I can have my welding torch on and working by 6:30.
I don't have time to normalize your female bulge, Dylan.
That's right. I have to rebuild a transmission on a Peterbilt tomorrow. I don't have time for your bullshit. Okay? I stood at the bottom of a grout packing machine for 11 hours today. I had to take 4 showers just to get the first layer of dirt off. Fuck off with your pronouns, right? That was Bud Light's brand. Okay? But now we should not be afraid of the people that actually buy your product or did.
Well, and what she's saying,
or did buy your product.
I kind of tongue-in-cheek, jokingly said that the message is very subtle, but obviously I'm kidding there. Her message is very, very clear. Do not fear the conservatives because they might hurt your pocketbook when they choose to purchase your competitor's product because of your psychopathy and insensitivity to, reality. Fear the left, who will set your cities on fire and murder your people. We know, we've seen them do it.
And they end up hurting themselves. When they riot like this, what do they hurt? They hurt a guy that worked his factory job for 6 years and saved up money and then put like a second mortgage on his little shitty house so he could have the $138,000 he needed to open up his own bar that you burned to the ground. Like, that's who you hurt with this.
So yeah, Whoopi's out there straight throwing Molotovs, and I want to get back to this bit.
Beer does not have it's not a Democrat or a Republican. Yeah. It doesn't have a belief system.
Okay, Whoopi, now do chicken sandwiches.
Just for starters.
It's a product. It doesn't have an ideological shut the fuck up. Now do chicken sandwiches.
And that's one of the watchwords.
Do pillows.
Fair. Well, really do anything. Because it's all good. Like when they when the Little Mermaid is all about representation now. Oh well, that's just that's good for everybody. But it. Whenever you hear somebody say, "Hey, this isn't a right or a left thing," fuck you. Yes, it is. You're trying to use that as cover. Right. Everything's a right or a left thing, or everything is a theist or atheist thing, or everything is an old or a young thing. But look, binaries exist. Not everything is binary, but a large amount of things are binary. And whenever somebody in the media says binary thing is not binary, it's actually usually pretty fucking binary.
In all fairness, all things which are or are not binary are or are not binary.
I know. I'm non-binary, which means you're either...
Oh, you're a non-binary? So you're the opposite of binary.
So you're...
What's the third option?
Right. Exactly. So look, but here's the thing. The reason why the Bud Light thing has caught on and has become a big deal is because I think it's the first step. I really, really, really hope that
Waller.
I really hope that this is the pivot point. There are some people that think the Bud Light thing is stupid. And when they say things like, look, the national debt's getting out of control, or turns out we might actually be doing things in Ukraine we've been swearing up and down for a year we're not actually doing in Ukraine. And, fair enough, okay? But people have to get motivated. They've got to have a line. And what happened is, and why middle America has reacted so poorly to this, is because they said, hey, we want an inch. And we gave them an inch. They took a mile. We let it go. And then you started trying to take more miles. Do you have the Disney thing that you could punch? You know the one.
You mean that one?
Let's have these two characters kiss. Let's, in the background, I was just, wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to, if you see any...
You mean that one?
That one right there. The Disney thing where we gave and we gave and we compromised and we compromised. And now the pendulum is swinging back the other direction. And so, yes, a whole bunch of people saw the Dylan Mulvaney thing on their beer can and said, God, it is absolutely fuck this shit o'clock. I'm done. I don't care. The one thing that I can do, I can stop buying Bud Light. Well, Coors Light is also LGBTQ friendly. Yeah, but they didn't put Dylan Mulvaney on a can. Right?
Yeah, so
they could have put anybody else on a can and it would have been less divisive.
And the thing about Dylan Mulvaney that I want you guys to understand, Dylan Mulvaney is not a trans person. Dylan Mulvaney is a character actor.
A narcissist.
And narcissism is the root social contagion. This is what I'm talking about on Monday or Tuesday.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to jump us ahead.
But no, that's one of the things. I'm like fat pride, queer pride, trans pride. Narcissism is the root problem. That's a whole social media thing, and I'm going to be doing a show on that by itself in the very near future. But with Dylan Mulvaney, you got to understand, he started his shtick with the whole days of girlhood, not womanhood, girlhood. Talked to and played the part of a little girl, right? Dylan Mulvaney's target audience, and this is important for the Bud Light decision as well, right, is children. It's TikTok users, the vast majority of whom are under the age of 21. The average TikTok user is 15 years old. And the ad exec that did the Mulvaney thing, she was very clear that she said our brand is dying, for one. We're like, no, until this, we were the most popular beer in the world. I don't know how, but in fact, that was the case by the numbers. So this idea that the brand was dying and needed to do something special, completely false.
Yeah, you had baked in market share.
And then she said, so we need younger drinkers. And by younger drinkers, with the target that she's going for, this is not different than cigarette companies advertising to 10 and 12-year-olds, or 5 and 6-year-olds, let's be real, with candy cigarettes back in the 80s. I liked candy cigarettes, by the way. I did. And now I'm a heavy smoker. Shit happens. But that's what they're doing, is they're targeting children. They're trying to sell to your children beer and genital mutilation. Those are the things that are happening there.
Well, you will need quite a bit of beer after the genital mutilation. I think that's a very short leap to make, sir.
I suspect you're not wrong. You're not right. You're not wrong, but you may be right.
Before we run out of time, can we bring in the last point so we can tie all this together?
I got to share this because we were doing the binary jokes. This is my favorite binary joke ever. You remember this one?
No.
101 00 11011 101 1101 11 0011 0111 1001 110 101 10 000 1100 101.
He goes on like that for like a full minute.
Okay.
That's gold. Okay, so, and I'm glad Alex is here, because Cameron wants to talk about a thing that Alex talked about on Monday.
Yeah, when I watched you guys' replay, it was like, oh, hey, here's a thing that I also wanted to bring up.
And this one was fun. I called in and talked to Alex. Now, yesterday on the show, I talked a little bit about the lawyer part of this conversation and the whole problem of the pro bono government-funded psychopathy that is the suing of teachers in this way.
I'm just going to read a little bit of this, and then we're going to jump forward, and then I'm going to present my bow, as it were, bringing it all together. Okay. A former English teacher in Ohio claims she was forced to quit her job after she claimed that it violates her religious beliefs to use students' preferred pronouns. Vivian Girardi, 24, filed a lawsuit against Jackson Memorial Middle School in Massillon, Ohio, the Board of Education, and 2 school district employees this week in federal court, alleging free speech, retaliation, and violations against her right to practice her Christian religion. The lawsuit claims that Girardi resigned on August 26th. About a week before Girardi quit, she said 2 students requested that she used names that align with their new gender identities rather than their legal names. One of the students also wanted to be addressed by a preferred pronoun, according to the lawsuit, claiming the school had instituted a policy requiring teachers to use students' preferred pronouns. Girardi said she went to the principal in hope of reaching a solution that would allow her to continue teaching without violating her religious beliefs and constitutional rights, and said she would not use the students' preferred pronouns. Okay. That's far enough. See, remember when I said a few minutes ago, we gave you an inch, you took a mile, and we let it go, and now you're trying to take more miles? That's this right here. This woman went to the principal and said, hey, look, I am not cool with any of this, but I understand the waters that I swim in, so let's compromise. And Girardi got told, yeah, you can take a long walk off a short pier. Your rights? No. It's far more important that we entertain this delusional psychopathy of these students. We need to spread the social contagion. We need to continue to encourage children to be confused about their bodies, which is like a middle schooler confused about their body?
No.
That's never happened before, ever in life. But yeah, Alex brings it up. Yeah, that so far this teacher has lost, and now it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to overturn all this nonsense. However, I don't want to count on the Supreme Court, and that's a whole separate. Like, it's a whole own issue there. But I don't want to count on the Supreme Court. This should be one of those things that should be obvious. This never should have even had to have gone to court in the first place. Adults should have been able to get together and go, man, everybody here's willing to compromise, so we just need to work out terms. But no, that wasn't allowed to happen at all. And so we give and they take, we give and they take, we give and they take, we give and they take. And for whatever reason, the Bud Light thing is the point where the majority of people, or at least a strong plurality, said, no, God, I'm so sick of this shit. You're ruining my movies. You're ruining my football. Now, I can't even, now I have to pay attention to which brand of beer I buy. God, this just sucks. And part of what has pushed it to this point is something that Chris brought up if you were listening to the TPS report live on Rumble, is that it's not just the social problem, it's the lawfare problem. We get beat down and beat down and beat down by this kind of thing over and over and over again. We see these decisions come from judges where like, for example, this teacher's like, by the way, the compromise this teacher wanted to institute was that she would just refer to all the students by their last name, which, ironically enough, is a common practice in most education systems around the world. Okay?
That's true. I was frequently referred to by my last name when I was in high school as well. I mean, my name's Chris, so it's a relatively common name. But this is not the same story that Alex covered. This is a different occurrence of the same psychopathy, which brings into question another point that is worth mentioning. The cases that we're talking about here, these are not outliers. It's not like, oh, well, this stupid thing happened this one time over here and we all looked at it and said it was stupid and we didn't do stupid thing anymore. Except, wait, stupid thing keeps stupiding. It stupids over and over and over again, right? This is just one of several stories like this. This one hasn't gone through the court yet, right? The lawsuit is ongoing. The case that Alex and Danny covered on Monday
did that really
different
happen?
Story that went to the Supreme Court.
We pulled the wrong story, but it was still the same story.
No, it's a different incident. Okay, yes. We pulled a story about a different incident, and the story is almost identical in the sharing of facts between
You just
the
made
occurrences.
Bertrand Russell roll over in his grave.
That's fair.
It's obvious where I was going with that. Anyhow, stupid keeps stupiding is comment of the day.
Well, thank you. Me?
No, but here's the thing. Here's how it all ties together. When you do have this assault on your children, when there's nothing that helps you in the legal system, when you have nowhere to go, when the only thing you could do is vote with your wallet and vote with your feet, and that's all you have left, well, suddenly, okay, fine. I will vote with my wallet, and I will stop buying Bud Light. And Tim Pool released that tweet, it was like 8 or 9 days ago, where he's like, well, if you're going to boycott Bud Light, you might as well go ahead and boycott all these other beers as well, because they're all owned by Anheuser-Busch. And it got retweeted like 58,000 times with people saying versions of, your terms are acceptable.
Right. So, yeah.
So this has to be where...
Alex just sent me a copy of the article that they were covering. And yes, federal judge rules against teacher who refused to use trans students' names. John Cluj, I thought so. So this one was a male teacher, an orchestra teacher, not an English teacher. And this is the one where he used the last names instead of the first names or the pronouns.
Well, how about that? That's... Wow. I'm kind of blown away that I was incorrect, but still, whatever.
We're so right that we're right when we're wrong.
That's right.
That's what you call extreme right.
Bill Whittle's right angle. Whatever. We are exactly 90 degrees, baby. No, but this is why the Bud Light thing is important. I think it should be capitalized on. Is this the most important fight to have? No. Is this the only fight that we need to have? No. But is it a fight worth having? I'm going to say yes. If it's at the point where Whoopi is telling Anheuser-Busch, don't be afraid of them, or be afraid of us, we're penetrating their bubble. And we should penetrate their bubble. Now, do we need to get better about organization and fighting back? Yes. There's a whole lot about the right wing that is at a disadvantage. Conservatism, libertarianism, whatever you want to call the flavor of right wing, and yes, I'm lumping libertarianism in with the right wing, is like a muscle. It needs to be practiced. It needs to be exercised. Leftism, liberalism, whatever you want to call it.
Freedom atrophies.
Whatever you want to call it is easy. It doesn't require effort. You just let the system do. And then you occasionally vote and virtue signal with your voice and whatever. It takes no effort whatsoever. But freedom is hard. Freedom takes work. The right wing is a muscle and it must be exercised. And in an effort to exercise that muscle, sometimes you got to start with the 10-pound weight before you move on to the 20-pound weight. And if we're going to start with Bud Light before we audit the Fed, okay, but it has to start somewhere. Otherwise, they're going to continue to take, and they're going to shove queerness into Buzz Lightyear movies, and they're going to have hands up, don't shoot at your football games forever, even though Mike Brown, okay, sure.
When you said the right wing is a muscle that needs to be exercised, this is all I can think of. From that awful movie.
Anyhow, long story short, let's not tear each other down over this issue. You're free to continue drinking Bud Light. You are free to boycott Bud Light only. You are free to boycott all of Anheuser-Busch. You are free to think this is a fantastic idea. You are free to think this is a terrible idea. And of course, you're free to debate the merits of whether or not boycotting Bud Light is the way to go. Well, all of that is fair.
I want to do this real quick to kind of drive home the point we were talking about earlier about this not being an outlying case. Just a cursory glance at a basic internet search, right? Ohio teacher forced out for refusing to use students' pronouns. That's the story we just covered primarily. This one, John Kluge, orchestra teacher at Brownsburg High School in Indiana, right? That's the one that Alex and Danny covered on Monday. This is not what I want to see. Go away. Teacher gets $95,000 to settle lawsuit over refusal to use student pronouns. Right, that's Fort Riley Middle School. That's another occurrence in Kansas. Right, Virginia teacher fired for refusing to use students' pronouns. Teacher suspended for not using students' pronouns sues school. Kansas veteran teacher Pamela Richards. So that's a Ricard. So that's another one. Right, go away. Well, this one you could kind of see in the background.
Virginia.
Let me see if I can get the headline at least. Teacher fired for not using student pronouns, takes case to Virginia Supreme Court. Peter Flaming, Virginia High School. That's another one. And the list goes on. This is a thing that's happening a lot. Teachers just, and that's cancel culture right there. That's, oh, I don't like the color of your hair. Watch me get you fired on Twitter.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, then. So, but look, long story short, it has to start somewhere. And you have to play the hand you've been dealt. It'd be great if you had a 4 of a kind, but you don't have a 4 of a kind. You have 2 pair, which is still a good hand if you know how to play it. So I would argue that all the stuff with the lawfare, and somebody said we have a legal system, not a lawful system. Buddy, ain't that the truth? Okay. Woo! That is, woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask Donald Trump about that.
Yeah, lawfare is a bitch.
Yeah, and look, we said it before. How much justice can a man afford? I mean, how much justice can a man get? Well, how much can he afford? Yeah, like, you can have almost anything as long as you can keep paying the lawyer.
Yeah.
And that's
Isn't that right, OJ?
That's right. Did you see the thing I dropped in the Sheik? So what's the greatest performance ever by an athlete? And the Iron Sheik said when the OJ pled not guilty. But it has to start somewhere. And if it starts with Bud Light, I mean, I think Matt Walsh nailed this one. We take a scalp.
No quarter.
No quarter. We take a scalp. You either submit and apologize entirely, or we pin you to the wall. And then the next one that rather organically bubbles to the surface, we take that scalp, and it's the same thing. You either submit and apologize entirely, or we pin you to the wall, and again and again and again. And it will start to click, because we're the freedom party. We're the individuals. We don't collectivize naturally. And because of the whole freedom ethic, we live and let live. We let things go. I want you to leave me the fuck alone. I will leave you the fuck alone. The difference between the two of us is I don't want to trans children.
Or murder them.
So anyhow, Woke Wednesday.
Yeah, let's put a button in it right there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.